Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of Yes and No. My name is Arda, and my good friend Matt, as always, here. And we have a guest today. She is one of our good friends from Los Angeles when Matt was here. Her name is Julia. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming to our podcast. So,
Thank you.
Matt, how did you guys meet? Do you remember with Julia?
I don't remember at all.
No, maybe through me. I mean, I know her from school. You also went to UCLA.
I think I know.
Okay.
I think it was in. I think you had a birthday party, Arda, that it was at Matt's house, and I think that's where I met him.
Oh,
I even think that we have a
West
picture on the stairs outside. I think that's when I met him. Yeah,
That was
it
such
was
a cool
not at
house.
UCLA. Yeah.
I don't remember. Yeah, to be honest, I thought he was on a project or something like that. Because I
mean,
do remember like coming to a project that you were
we
working
maybe
together.
met just around that time with Matt too. To be honest, I think I know Julia before I met with you, or become friends with you.
Maybe.
You know me for such a long time that you still call me Julia, and everyone else calls me Maju.
Maju.
That's how long you know me.
Yeah. But yeah, I met with Julia Maju in school at UCLA. Did you do directing or producing certificate there?
Me?
Yeah,
Writing.
back then. You were doing writing. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Because I have
she's
so
a
many,
writer.
like
I'm a writer, yeah.
yeah, she's a really good writer. Also, I really like her stuff. Do you do any what type of writing do you? Because back then I feel like it was a little bit different what we did together. Like it was like short films you were writing. But what do you do right now with the writing? What do you write?
So right now, currently, I'm working on a romantic comedy that it's set in Brazil and Italy. And it's a lovely project. I'm having so much fun. And it's what I've been doing for a while now, writing romantic comedies. It's something that I really enjoy. I love to watch them. I love to write them. I love to create stories that involve love and a lot of humor. And I've mainly working with feature writing. And I was actually starting a process to transition to TV. But that was right before the strike happened, and since then things have been very, very crazy. So as far as this transition goes, I would say that right now I'm kind of in a limbo. But I've been focused on feature writing for many, many years since I started working here in the US.
What type of romantic comedies do you like? Do you have some examples?
Yes, my favorite one, all-time favorite, and I think it's always going to be my favorite, is Notting Hill. No, Notting Hill.
Sure.
I think that it has to do with how the story is very good. It's very entertaining, but also the actors are amazing. The production is very well done. But I think that it also has to do with the time that I watched it. I saw it in theaters, and I was preteen or like first years of like being a teenager. And I remember going to the theater, watching it, and falling in love with it. I was just like, wow, this is my favorite movie of all times. And I just kept going back and kept going back and kept going back. And I think I saw it like 4 or 5 times in the theaters, which for a child is a lot because like you're spending, you're like, you have to convince your parents to give you money again. So you can use that money for other things and not to watch the same movie. But I remember that I did. I took all my friends to watch. Each time I would go with a different friend. And so that's my all-time favorite.
But actually, it's interesting, like because you were saying like about nothing. What was the movie again?
Notting Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what compelled you? Like, why did you like it? I know, like you were telling about the structure in itself, and maybe the characters and the actors, they were great. But like, what really compelled you as a preteen, watching this movie and be like, wow, I fucking love it. Because like when you're a kid, it's not like, after, like we did study, films in general, all of us, and we have like this idea of, different structures and why this works, why this not works. But when you're younger, you're seeing with your eyes, something that you don't really understand. So what did you like about it, really? Like in terms of, was it the relationship between those characters? Is it like the love itself, or what was it?
Yeah, no, that's super interesting because I missed that so much, that place where you just watch a movie and you
For the first time.
don't think, not only for the first time, but you just don't think about anything of the technical part of making it. Like you don't think about the acting, you don't think about the writing, you don't think about the production, you just enjoy it. I miss that so, so, so much. Because once you start working with movies, that's like all you do is like, ooh, like, I wonder why they did this. I wonder how much it cost. I wonder, and it's just like, but anyways, going back to your question, I think that the reason why I love romantic comedies is because I love love. I love the idea of love. I think it's the best feeling. And I also think it's the most important feeling. And I think that when we are in that headspace and feeling love, everything that we do is better. Like we take care of other people. We consider other people. We consider other people's emotions when we are in that place of love. But I also think that for some reason, we've established that love is a weakness and we're always pushing people away from it. Like you should never show or like let people know. So I think that what I like about romantic comedy is that puts it as a genre, it puts that in evidence, like it's about like romantic comedies are about people falling in love and us, like the audience, laughing about that, laughing about people falling in love. And I think that that's a very healthy space to be. And I think that I always liked that. So when I saw Notting Hill for the first time, I literally fell in love with their love story and the way it happened and the way that they talked to each other and how everything worked. And, like the very first time they interact and Hugh Grant's character says like surreal but nice. And it's awkward it's very awkward. And it would be something that if you said that, you would be like, God, why did I say that? But at the same time, and she makes fun of it, so it works. And plus, like when the famous scene when she goes back to him and she says, like, because she's this famous actress and she says, I'm just a girl standing in front of a boy asking him to love her. I think that that's one of the most beautiful things beautiful lines in film, and also it's a woman saying that to a man, which is not very common and much less when the movie came out. So I think that those things were the things that really spoke to me at the time and made me, and I guess they speak to me until today. That's why I still love it.
Did you have a crush on Hugh Grant? I think my mother was in love with him.
Yeah, it's like an old people crush. Come on.
No, I mean, I wouldn't say that I had a crush on him because I think I knew he was a lot older than me, but obviously I thought he was a very, very, very attractive man. Always.
Who were your celebrity crushes back then?
Ooh, back at that time, I don't remember. I mean, I remember a few random celebrity crushes, but like, for example, I think this one was my first celebrity crush ever. Brian from the Backstreet Boys.
Brian
I loved him.
I don't know who.
So Brian was one of the main
Family
singers. Guy. No. Oh, yeah, Brian from Family Guy. No. Yeah, I think Brian was one of my.
Oh yeah,
my
yeah. That's the kind of a surfer guy. Yeah, I remember his face. I don't know. Felt like he was a surfer or something.
Today, when I look back, I don't feel like he's my type at all. But I guess when I was super young,
I mean, he was
Y2K. He was a crush.
He was definitely Y2K. In the sense like the.
Yeah.
Color of the hair,
the highlights,
and the way it was like the highlights and all that. Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
Did you have a movie like that, Matt, that you were really into back then when you were a kid?
I don't think it's kind of related to that at all. Like, it was Starship Troopers. Like, it was one of my first film that I went to see in the movie theater. So it's such a guy, like it's such a cliche right now.
But it's
like
about
the guy is
capitalism.
like the cliche is like, yeah, it was a movie about war, and killing insects. And then on the other side, you get the girl, and he's like, yeah, like romantic comedy is nice thing.
Yeah, that's fine.
But for me, yeah,
mine was Rocky. That's would considered comedy, romantic comedy, I think.
Rocky?
Like Rocky, everything is romantic comedy for him. So that's
No, I really actually my favorite was Rocky. I don't know why. We can make a psychoanalysis there, but
I mean, it's pretty obvious.
I love that movie. Huh?
It's pretty obvious.
Pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's about overcoming a challenge and being an underdog.
I was playing volleyball back then, and that movie, I was working so much. Like, I was going training every day, at least 2 to 3 hours, nonstop every year to accomplish something, to just get, like the first in our league, Istanbul League, Turkey League. And we had some success in the leagues in the 10, 12 years that I played volleyball. But that movie, that hustle, like, he was nobody. He just loved this girl who was Adrian, super shy. And he had like some kind of stupid confidence to him that, kind of gave her some confidence to. And together they, kind of accomplished something. But I don't know, that was really moving for me.
Yeah.
Back then.
Mommy issue alert.
Yeah. Or daddy.
Yeah, he was in love with the girl. No, that's cool. That's interesting. It's maybe, it's kind of a reflection maybe of our way of thinking as child, and maybe, psychology, definitely you can find something to it. For all of us, different point of view. But I'm intrigued about something about, like, to go back to romantic comedy. One of the things that I'm not going to say hate, all right, because it's a genre that I can appreciate and I can watch, but then it goes really to some also cliche, as you were saying, about girls and women in general that like that, or for example, it's kind of a girly, genre, and then you have like more for guys action movies or something. But I like, because you're writing some, like, the thing is, it felt always for me the fact that the comedic aspect is always playing like stereotype genre, defined role in terms of how to fall in love. Because, like, I loved your conception about, like, I love the idea of love, and how people, can fall in love at the same time. And I totally agree with you with that. And I love that idea too. And there's like this definitely romantic aspect to me and Arda sometimes, I guess. But I feel like that, most of the time. But what is intriguing is, like, for me, it is not a genre, but it's definitely developed for women, by women. And it conveys a lot of cliche most of the time. No? What do you think about that?
I don't think it's made for women. I don't think it's made only by women. And but I do think that, going back, like when you said your favorite movie at the time, I think that a lot of what happened a lot, especially to our generation, is that a lot of the content, because I think that our generation, even before the internet, our generation was a generation that had access to a lot of content, like more than, I mean, generations before us as well, but not if we go back all the way to, to like our grandparents or something like that. So I think that what happened is we had access to a lot of content, and the way that the content was marketed towards a specific audience, I think that helped us. That helped ape our tastes and what we liked and what we wanted to pursue. So I think that a lot of romantic comedies and a lot of romance movies and books and all of that type of content was targeted towards women, making us, everyone, women, men, but the whole society think that that was the content that women like better.
And also
then-
made by men, by the way.
And mostly made by
Yeah,
men, yeah.
sure.
And like the same happened to action and, you know, thrillers and other types of stories. So I don't think that that's something that it's inherent to our personality. I think it's more, it was embedded into us. And with time, once we realize that, especially people who work with communications or arts, I think that those people are people that think more about the message, the audience, and the medium and all of that. And then we eventually come to the conclusion that, okay, how much of this is what I like and how much was just told me that that was what I was supposed to like. I have a lot of friends now, like I'm a lot older now than I was when I first saw Notting Hill. And by the way, back in the day when I went to see Notting Hill, boys my age could not go to see that movie because people would make fun of them if they went to see a romantic comedy.
That's true.
So that's what I'm saying. So you're not even introduced to a genre because people are going to make fun of you. And maybe it's something that if you did watch, maybe you would like it, but you can't. So now I have a lot of friends, a lot of guy friends who say that love watching romantic comedies and that do watch a lot of romantic comedies. And they think it's soothing. They think it's like, it's nice. They also love the idea of love. They like to watch romance stories, and romantic comedies are a good way of doing that through comedy as well. As for cliches, the thing is, like, there are a lot of genres that have a lot of cliches, especially there was a period of time in which the formulas were very much the norm and no one questioned them. And that goes for action movies as well, and like
Totally.
for all types of movies. And I think that romantic comedies is a genre that for a while it kind of, people put it in the back and said like, we're done, people are not watching it anymore. So I think it kind of got stuck in that place where cliches or formulas were very much the norm, and it didn't evolve as much as other genres. And now there is, like they're saying, there's a comeback for romantic comedy, and there kind of is. Now I think that people are experimenting with new ways of exploring romantic comedies and trying different things, like that movie, the recent Anyone But You with Glenn Powell and forgot her name. The girl
Anatomy
from
of
Euphoria.
Fall. That was a good one.
Yeah, well, it's not a
Come on,
romantic
dude.
comedy, but it's a much better movie.
That's a romantic comedy. No,
No, it's not. What?
just kidding. Just kidding.
Okay.
It's just a troll. Like it's
Just trolling a
because
little
there's
bit.
a relationship in there. That's why such a cliche.
But yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm trying to think something that you said that's kind of like a new one, but nothing is coming into my mind for some reason. Like when you said that, there are like some new good things, but I don't know. There's nothing coming into my mind for some reason.
Like Anyone But You was a movie that grossed like, I don't remember how much, but it was a lot worldwide. We can even look it up. And it's very recent.
Like I didn't notice it before that, because I do watch romantic comedy time to time, watch it, but like, I don't know, maybe I'm not paying attention. Like I don't know any new ones. The first one, actually, now I'm thinking, what was it? Crazy Wedding? Asian Wedding? No.
Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah,
That one was also like a high grossing movie. So Anyone But You grossed $219.2 million. That was a lot. And it's a romantic comedy. And people loved it. People had a lot
Crazy
of fun
Greek
watching
Wedding.
it.
That's another one.
But it's
Yeah.
older.
Yeah, it's a lot older. But it's true. That was a big, like a high grossing
Like
movie.
traditional love story. Like, what do you think about the I don't know where I watched this, but there was this guy. I think it was on social media. So it was talking about how Hollywood portrays romantic comedies, and there is this rich poor dynamic, or like there's like this luxury glamour to it.
Yeah.
That he was kind of pointing out that was interesting, like why we are experiencing rich people's romantic lives instead of day-to-day romantic lives.
Oh, I love
but,
that.
But I don't know, like you watch more. Do you see that kind of a pattern? That's like mostly they are showing us like the rich people's romance, or how to get rich through romance.
Yeah, I do think so. I think it's because a romantic comedy kind of bases itself in the idea of creating an ideal situation. And I think which is like you're finding your soulmate possibly. And I think that around that idea, it's usually like, let's not create a world where the characters are going through like difficulties, because it will play against the magic of falling in love. I think that's probably why. Not saying that it's the right thing to do, and that was very interesting. Like, why
That's
are we
interesting, yeah.
watching like rich people fall in love, like rich people's love stories, and not like regular people or like people that are struggling financially? And I don't
otherwise,
know.
it's Christian people. Otherwise, with the Allmart, type of movies at the end of the year for Christmas. So it's
but that's a specific. Yeah,
yeah, it's a specific genre almost. Yeah.
Yeah. Hallmark is a specific genre.
Yeah, but still, it's that is pretty interesting too, because like for me, there's two things that are bothering me in those comedies. It's like usually it's mostly white people that are financially, free, and they would, definitely have a good life, and the second part is that also convey like cliche in terms of their relationship, and the easiness of what is love in general. Like it feels like I was bath at the kids, like love is like between two people, and it has to be beautiful. And if you don't find that, then love doesn't really exist. And the older I'm getting, the more I'm understanding it's definitely more complex than that. Because like there's love, sure, but then there's a second vision of love too, in terms of how you have in a relationship with someone and the work you need to do in order to keep that love going and all that shit, and even like on a daily basis. And what it feels, it's like this easy portrait of a man is like that, a woman is like that, and then there's some kind of difficulty, or one is an asshole and the other one think about something, and then at the end everything is beautiful, and and love is there, so no problem. Which I think like what is missing for me is actually, why not start a movie or a story with some people that are already in love, and try to make them more in love in some way, because it always feels like destiny, as you were saying, like the finding your soulmate, and then like I'm rich and she's poor, and we're gonna try to find a way because it's impossible, or there's always some kind of complication in it, but it's always super stereotyping a man and a woman, and the only thing is getting in their way. Like nothing can get in her way except like because of love or something like that. I don't know. In this era, and especially in 2024, it's still a stereotype of how we used to envision a relationship between two people, a man and a woman, like we did 50 years ago. And the only goal is to try to find these core values almost of the American identity in some way, and the guy is like that and he's super good, and the woman is gonna try to be maybe on her own, but I don't know, like the dynamism in general, for me it feels like it's the same for the past 50 years, where in 2024 obviously things changed, and I don't know, like it feels like there's different way to love people, and especially
It's
like
not portrayed that much.
it's
I
not
think.
portrayed that much, especially like because there's this comedic aspect to it too that could work on that too. I don't know.
And also, we talked about this before too, but in storytelling, like it's almost like you need certain, in Hollywood, especially storytelling, that you need certain conflicts or like hardship to go through, which you
Yeah.
can still find non-rich people's life too. But I don't know if there's something easy that you can integrate into the story that when it's like rich and poor or whatever, that Hollywood likes to go with it. But I don't know. It's just maybe Julia will do a little bit more poor people love.
That's okay. So no, I think that like thinking back to what Matt said, I think that you're absolutely right. And I think that there are two ways of seeing this. I think that romantic comedy is a very specific genre about falling in love. It's not about relationships. It's not about
The process.
deciding to be alone or anything like that. So I think that to look for these other types of situations in romantic comedies is something that will eventually frustrate you because I don't think you will find. But I do think that romantic comedies romanticize love a lot, and especially the act of falling in love. So I agree with you. And I think that when I was growing up, I loved romantic comedies because I saw love like that. And then living life and having your heart broken, you realize that love is not exactly like that. Like I very recently last year had a heartbreak that completely changed the way that I see love, and it completely changed the way I see life. And that was just last year. And so like now for me, romantic comedies are in a way fantasies that I still like to, that I still enjoy watching and partaking somehow, watching or writing or just like knowing about it. It's something that I like. But I do agree. I think that within romantic comedies, there's a lot more that we can explore, especially the other like relationships that are not necessarily between rich people, that are not necessarily from two people from the same of the same gender or two people of the same culture and things like that. I do think that can be more explored, and I think that it is. It's still like
definitely
not like most of it, but it's still, but it is. And just like keeping in mind that it's a genre about falling in love, and that's like they're not gonna explore.
That's a great point. Yeah,
like a breakup.
And in genres, in between genres, there's this thing too, like some things are more dominant. Again, I'm going to go back to Rocky, for example. Like there's a love story there too, but it's not predominantly like what that movie is about. Or there are like other movies that you can find like love stories, but it's not the genre as a sci-fi or something else, right? But as you said, maybe that makes it particularly a romantic comedy because it's like very focusing on the falling in love aspect.
Yeah, that's the A story. Yeah. It's very common for most genres to have the B story, to have a romantic arc in the B story. That's very common because romance is a part of our lives.
Comedy and romance. Yeah.
And going back to content targeted to women and men, what is very common is for content that was targeted to men, usually had romance as the second story, as the B story. And for women, it was the other way around. As if for women, relationship is more important than for men. And that's part of how society was created. And that's why a lot of these values are still being debated and still stand for a lot of people where, like, you know, the ultimate joke about like men need to get married and they hate it. They say like, I lost it. I'm finally giving in. I'm getting married. And it's just like, then don't like, I went to a wedding, like two friends were getting married and the guy was like this type of guy. And he would just kept saying like, yeah, well, I don't have a choice anymore. And at some point you just go like, then don't get married. Like, get the hell out of here. If she's making you, get out. And it's not true. Obviously, he was in love. Obviously, he wanted to get married, but he has this image that he feels the need to portray, you know, like, help me, I'm stuck in this.
Yeah.
And it's because of that. Like, it's how we were, like, the content that was targeted to us, and that help build our tastes and lives. And it's not like who we are necessarily. It was just like how we were created or molded.
Yeah, all action movies.
Yeah,
Love Story is the B story.
Yeah.
No, but what is interesting, what you're saying is like I can relate that to something else. One of the topics that we wanted to have actually with Arda was about toxic femininity too. In the sense, like it felt like there's like it's not about feminism in general, but it feels like for the past few years there have been on social media a lot of women trying to get into a kind of a normal relationship or something like that in a way, but they always explain that they're stumbling onto this douche dickhead, you know, kind of guy, you know, that doesn't do the dishes or is not taking part of the relationship in general. And then there's this switch, which is like not even trying to understand where that person's coming from or trying to get a conversation into that. But it goes straight up to those actually cliche that you can find sometimes in those films, like comedy, romantic comedy, is the woman needs to be valued in a certain way. And, you know, usually, and I would say most of the time from the romantic comedy that I watched, it's usually the guy, you know, at the end that's running toward the woman, you know, trying to be like, no, I love you, some stuff like that. So making the woman desirable and also in some way made them like also empowering because they are not in the control, but it's the guy who needs to do those steps and it needs to be there for her in some way. And it feels like in those social media posts, there's a lot of girls that are like, okay, if the guy is really in love with me, you know, he should do that and he should come to my house and bring me roses every single day and do this and do that. And it feels like it's feeding that cliche, you know, about those situations where guys are expected to do something. And if the guys don't do what they're expected, and I would say based almost on those movies, you know, like the cliche of the guy needs to be this prince, you know, coming to rescue the girl, then there's no value to it. And I was wondering, like, what do you think about that in terms of, do you think it's what was fed to us and then it translated to movies and then it goes back to the people in general and they think this is the normality, or is it something that was always there and it was just translated into movies at one point? That's it.
So I would love to talk about this, actually. I think that the way that you started saying what you said and the way that, like, and when you got to, like, explain your point, for me, it's already, like, for me, it's clear that these two things, like the origin of those things are not toxic femininity or feminism. It's the opposite. It is the patriarchal way of that our society was built that reinforces these ideas that the man is the savior. And women and men that repeat that, they are still acting under the patriarchy. This is not a feminist view at all. And it's very important to just like say, which I think everyone knows, but like feminism is the fight for equal rights. It's not the fight for like women having more rights or more power than men. It's not, I think that there's a big problem with the word because it sounds like it's the opposite of
patriarchy,
machism, which is not very common in English, but I think in a lot of languages is. But it's not. So feminism is the fight for equal rights, for equal power, for equal.
Yeah, I agree.
For equality. Yeah. So that being said, and I think that again, like a lot of these these speeches that are repeated that like if men need to bring me flour, and men need to do this, men need to buy me dinner, men need to whatever. This is much more based in patriarchy than anything else.
I
because
agree.
those were the values that that men insisted that we had. And just like toxic masculinity, I know you guys had an episode about that too. Like the thing with toxic masculinity is that now the conversation still focus a lot on the damage that causes for women, for children of both genders and all of that. And I still think that the conversation doesn't talk enough about the damage that it does to men. And that's why it's toxic masculinity, because it's toxic to men as well. So yeah. And that's why feminism is very, very important. And that's why you should be a feminist, Arda.
I don't believe it.
You don't believe in equal rights?
I do, but that's the thing with feminism. What I believed when I was saying that I'm a feminist, it was different. I don't think it is like that anymore. I think it becomes something else that
Really?
I'm like, all
Dude,
right. I mean, I feels like I don't have much to say about it. It's like a woman's perspective is what defines the feminism today's world. So I would go with that. I would listen women, and then I will receive it from them instead of saying like, I'm a feminist, because how I saw it was a humanistic issue. It wasn't a man-women issue. It was like there are human rights, men and women should treat it in that sense. But then it becomes so much bigger than that. Like there are like cultural aspects to it, other things. Like it's not just about voting or making money and blah, 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 that I feel like I shouldn't say much about it, because I should listen more from women. So I shouldn't be even like saying like I'm a feminist.
Okay, you're an
I don't
ally
know.
though.
Huh?
You're an ally.
Lie?
Ally.
Ally. Yeah, I'm an ally. Sure.
But that's the thing. Like, if you believe in equality and you're willing to do your part, I'm not saying be an activist, but do your part towards equality, I think that qualifies you as a feminist, period.
Yeah, I mean, I know, but I don't know. It's like when I say it just doesn't start to feel, that doesn't
With
mean
the beard and
anything to
all
me.
that.
Yeah, I'm a feminist, but I'm like, it's more of like, I would like to hear, because I know what feminism is. I know where we need to go in society, but I would like that to come from women and men too, but I don't want to label myself as feminist. I don't know.
Okay. I think that a lot of, like, for a very long time, the issues were very clear and we focused on them. So it was easier to understand what the fight was for. And I think that now society is in a place where we are talking about major issues that are still existent. For example, the pay gap or like things like that. But also, I think we're just like in a place as a society where we're discussing nuances as well. And that's when it gets a little bit harder, because like, yes, if you're not a woman, you don't, like, there are many things that we can try to explain and we can give you examples, but it's different than feeling it.
Yeah.
Like, you will never be able to fully understand the constant fear of just like walking. I'm not going to say at night. I'm just saying like walking alone, parking in an empty parking lot.
Are you most afraid of crossing the path of a bear in the wood or a man?
Do you know that meme?
Yes. The thing is, like,
no, I know it.
Honestly.
Man,
like,
can you explain her the meme and what is it?
No. I know what it is.
Just kidding.
The man and
wait,
the bear.
let me explain the meme if people they don't know. Like,
okay, yeah.
Mansplain.
So let me get my legs. So guys, well, there's these things going on, and I think it started on TikTok or something like that. And there was someone that was, I think it was a girl, and she was telling people that she was less scared of crossing path with a bear if she was walking alone in the woods than with a man. And these like became so huge. So there was like people saying like, well, a bear, is super dangerous, but a man, it can help you. Or you had like those different aspects to it. They're saying like, yeah, why a man is more dangerous. And then people started to do facts about it, like the most attack from bear, the most attack from men. And then it became like this not polarizing, topic online, but definitely trended for a while. But yeah, so what is your take on it?
The thing is, like, if you're alone in the woods, like you're lost. You went hiking and you got lost. That's the situation that whenever this subject comes up, I think like that's what happened. I went hiking and I got lost. So I'm at a place where I cannot see other people. I'm just alone. If I run into a man, that would be so terrifying. Like so terrifying. Like you have like at the moment that you see another human being and it's a man, it's just like anything can happen to me at this point. Yeah, sure. The man can be like a super nice man that says like, oh, I know the way back home. I'll take you there. But like, there's also something else. Like men are different when no one else can see them too. So it's not like, it's the same chance as you encounter a man in the middle of the city. No, it's not, because men change when there's other people around watching him.
What about you, Matt? Bear or man?
Okay, no, let me just come to a conclusion.
Oh my God.
So for this, I think that if you see a bear, we know like things that you have to do, and there's always a chance that you won't be able to do it, and that the bear sees you and then just decides that they're hungry or they want to kill you or they want to eat you. Mm-hmm. That's it. Like there's nothing to do. But a bear, you can if it's like a black bear, you can be quiet and try to make like sounds to push it away. If it's a brown bear, you can just like go to a tree and just like not move and hope it will, just keep going. But ultimately the risk with the bear is that they're gonna like kill you. And with a man, the possibilities are so like, there's so many possibilities to what can happen to you that it's just like not worth the risk.
Well, I'm gonna go back to I'm gonna go back to that, but there's someone actually online, and I think I saw it like multiple times. Someone was saying, actually, if you get attacked by a bear, people will trust you.
We'll believe you. Yeah,
that. Yeah, we believe you or something.
Believe you.
It was pretty.
But that's when you said it. Is it this? You're saying it for a woman, right? That's why I wanted to ask Matt, because to me it's men. Like I wouldn't even think about it. I would pick a man. So like is it applied the same way to men too?
No, for yourself. But like, do you have
for myself.
Like, do you have a sister? No, right? I know.
No. I mean, it's like, if it's a woman, I understand that part. Like, that's why I was like, when you were saying, I just want to make sure specifically for women, not for a man, I assume, right? Like if a man is in the woods and if he needs to choose a man and a bear, I don't know. It feels like most men would go with a man instead of a bear.
I agree. Yeah. Most of them will say that. And not because like the bear is so dangerous, so they see like the dangerous aspect of the bear. But yeah, they will give more of their trust to another man than, just a bear in general. But what is interesting about that topic is, I mean, first of all, that it's triggering a lot of people, especially guys, because it feels like if you put two predator at the same time, like you would prefer having a bear than a man, which is like on the animal scale, definitely the bear is more physically dangerous than a man. But what is interesting is it is idea of the dangerous aspect of men. Like we're living in a society where it feels like when we're talking about feminism in general, like the only thing that needs to be reached almost is like, wage equality and maybe, relationship dynamism. It feels like there's no, even for men, I'm talking about in general, I'm not talking about us especially, but I'm talking like, it feels like generally, like men never think that there's this weird relationship from women toward men, because it feels like it's just women, and then men between men, it's okay. And then like this question about like feeling safe or not safe at night, walking, somewhere when you're a woman, like that's something that never goes into the mind of a guy ever. Like they never ask themselves about that ever. Maybe dad, but
I mean, you learn about it, but I didn't realize it until I learned it from women. And even growing up, there was like this ritual that, not a ritual, but it was traditional that, if like a woman is going, like as a man, you go with that. Like if they're walking alone, you don't let them walk alone on the street. But you don't really like, it kind of almost register when you're a kid as like, like a gesture kind of a thing, like you walk with them, blah, blah, blah. Like you don't really think about the safety aspect to it. And then you get to an age and then you realize that there's like more to it, because there's danger from men and also women feeling not safe. But yeah, it's something that you learn as a man, and as a woman, you live with it. You feel that, and then it's almost like a trauma.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with power dynamic. I think it's more than, and that's why with the bear, it also applies for the situation with the bear. It's when you're talking about power dynamic, a lot of the physicality doesn't matter. So the physical strength doesn't matter. Like I've walked alone, and then like a friend joined me, and not necessarily like a guy friend, and not necessarily this guy friend was either stronger or more capable of, like, if engaging into a fight, to actually, protect me. Maybe I was like physically, I would be like equally protected if I was just by myself. But there is a thing where you're walking with another man that just automatically put you in a safer position, because men respect men.
There's this perception, definitely, like
than women.
Instead of challenging that, lack of a man might is a different perception. Yeah.
Like just like you're in a nightclub and some guy is like talking to you and you're like, I'm not interested, I'm not interested, I'm not interested, and they're insisting, and then at some point you just say like, I have a boyfriend, and that's when they go like, oh, I'm sorry. It's because if you're not being interested, it's not enough. But if there's another guy, then it's not disrespect towards me. It's disrespect towards my fictional boyfriend who's a man. So that's like enough to step down and be like, okay, sorry. So
you were talking about that there are some things that we might see it as if women doing something wrong, or is it like a feminine, toxic femininity? But then you said that there's actually mostly related with patriarchy and men, right? What do you see as a toxic femininity at all, or do you think it doesn't exist? Like, do you think there's something that women should have done differently, approach it differently, that might actually help the situation?
Honestly, I've never heard the term toxic femininity, and I would not be able to say what it is, because when I think about toxic masculinity, it's very clear to me that it has a lot to do with the power dynamic and also the responsibility that is injected in men as being this superior being. And that's why you have so many, like all these responsibilities, and you cannot show feelings, and you cannot, like, you have to be successful financially. There's all these things that I don't know how to transition to the other side and think about it in the same way. That being said, I'm not saying that that there's nothing that that women don't do anything wrong. First of all, I think that we're all part of the patriarchy, and we're all sexist, whether we want it or not. We're all sexist in a way. And that's our I think that part of our learning journey in being alive and, seeing new generations come and take over some parts of culture is to see other sides, because there's always another side. So we get in touch with older generations that have a different view, and then younger generations that have a different view. We as a generation, we have another, like a different view, of like a view for ourselves, and that we're always learning. But like many times you find yourself, like I find myself in a situation where a thought crosses my mind, and then I stop and I think like that wasn't like, that's not fair. That was sexist. I shouldn't think that, or, you know, and you're learning and you're reflecting about it and reading about it and just like thinking about it, so you can get out of that place as much as you can. But it's important to say we're all raised in a patriarchal society. So it's not like the same with racism. Like we're all raised in a society with like where these things are part of our structure. So it's not like if someone says, I'm not racist at all, I'm not sexist at all, that's a bold thing to say. Like, hopefully no one is intentionally, and hopefully everyone is actively trying to be less and less. But we carry with ourselves like traces of that structure that we were inserted in, and that just molded us to be who we are. So yeah, it's not just men who are misogynistic like women are too. You know, it's just like we are all in this place together. But it is very important to know that we have access to a lot of things now, and we can actively grow into a better person and go to a better place where these things do not dictate our lives anymore.
Yeah, I mean, because I think I'm going to go back to the popular culture, and we can even relate that to capitalism to a degree too. I mean, we live in a patriarchal society, and when you look at the contents we are creating, yes, mostly men maybe, like even individual level people sharing content, right? Like TikTok or on Instagram. And yeah, they're getting some conditioning maybe from movies and other stuff. But I guess what I meant by toxic masculinity, toxic femininity, or maybe let's just say toxic behaviors. Because there are so many social constructs that there's like this feedback loop that there is something presented, people take that, apply that in their lives, believe that, and then they promote it. So, and then others see it, and then it kind of keep going. And there's like this group of people believing that this is fine, and this group of people believing that this is wrong. And I can see personally toxic behavior from both men and women. But yes, in terms of dominancy and control, men most of the times are still most of the things that's created. Yeah, there's a lot of male influence for sure.
I mean, to go back to this idea of what, you know, toxic femininity is, I think it's this aspect, as I was saying, you know, some women, you know, bitching online about like, yeah, the guy needs to be like that and this, and needs to put a ring on it, you know, like all those messages that are conveyed through empowerment, but not in terms of trying to find equality or feminism in general. But I think, you know, like this counter argument about, like, as you were saying, you know, macho culture, but at least like this feminine culture on the opposite side, being like, well, you know, a guy should be like that, and like this, like this, like this, like this, like this. Otherwise, it's not a man, or it's not even worth, you know, being with them.
Alpha.
Maybe, yeah. And then most of the time, yeah, it's this idea, you know, of overly structured, you know, idea of what is a man. Like he has to be wearing this type of clothes, and he should have a six pack, and he should be a good lover and taking care of me and all that. And those are reinforced by this patriarchal society that we're all coming from.
Yeah, 100%.
But to go back to all this idea about like romantic comedies, is like, don't you think those are part in terms of the pop culture they're reinforcing the systemic patriarchal vision of what romance is too, in some sense. There's like, don't you think this genre, specifically in terms of movies, is not just there to entertain, but it's also reinforcing this idea, of this patriarchal society that we're living in?
Yo, 100%. I know what you mean. But like, if you think about, there are many of these films that do reinforce the same dynamic, and there are just other ones that don't. The same with like, with action films. Like you have action films that question many important things in our society, and that bring interesting thoughts to an audience that likes to watch that type of content. And there are also action movies that just repeat the same banter and reinforce the position of a man, the position of a woman, and all of that. The same with romantic comedies. Like if we go back to Notting Hill, which was the start of it all.
Point, yeah.
In Notting Hill, we have a social power. Like if you think about the social power dynamic between the couple is inverted, because she is a very, very famous, rich and successful actress, known worldwide. And he has a bookstore that is failing. And it's like, he has debt, and he doesn't, he's not selling books, and he's just like there, and he's a failure professionally.
Mm-hmm.
So, and in Notting Hill, like they meet each other, like none of them have the intention, like they accidentally meet, right? He accidentally spills orange juice into her shirt. He lives like across the street, so he just tells her like, let's go to my house, you can use the bathroom to clean yourself. And that's how they meet. And then eventually they get together and they have this fun relationship that everything's working. And then the paparazzi find out where she is, they take pictures, and it becomes like news across the globe that she's like sleeping with a guy in Notting Hill, like an Englishman. And like she kind of has a boyfriend, like she doesn't, but the media thinks she does, and she didn't say, like it's a complicated situation. And that's how they break up. And after they break up and they're not together anymore, she is the one who goes back to him and apologizes and says like, I think I did that wrong. And there's a famous speech in which she says like, I might be a famous actress, and I might be like, a big deal in Hollywood, but also I'm just a girl sitting in front of a boy asking him to love her. And that's not what we usually see in like traditional content or even in life, which is the women making a speech and trying to win over the guy and say like, I love you, I want to be with you, and I'm just like here, asking you to love me. So I do think that there is a lot of space within this genre to explore good messages that are better than a lot of messages that were very common in the past. And I do think that they do that. It's just like, maybe, I don't know, like maybe watch some of the new comedies, because I also agree that a lot of them just go back to the
roots of those. Because like you were mentioning this, but I think was it Harry Meets Sally? I think this one too was not as much as cliche as what you can see nowadays too. Sure, the power dynamics is on the other side. It's the guy who's is doing. It's basically the same story, but it's the guy on the other side. But it feels it became more and more in terms of how to market those films. We need to go back to something more cliche and stereotyped than even before. Less complexity in terms of the relationship, and as you were saying, the fall in love story in itself, but more cliche in terms of the background of those characters.
Yeah, but like if you watch Anyone But Me, I mean, that's an interesting one because the dynamic is very changed throughout the whole movie, and it was the last big romantic comedy. It was just in theaters like a couple of weeks ago, and it grossed, 250 million in
but
box
don't you
office.
think, like, I didn't watch it, right? But I'm checking it online, and you had like this perfect guy, with this big smile, and I think I hate that actor because I think he played, I don't know which movie he played, but I wanted to punch him so bad. I think he was playing someone bad in that. But then like you see the poster, right, and then you see some picture of it, and it's like this white dude, ripped off, and she's blonde, and with a nice ass, and like it's still, convey that idea of this perfect idea of what a couple is. And even though I don't know the story, and maybe the story, as you're saying, maybe it's more interesting and the way it is developed, but it's still the
There's
way
like
that is,
symbolism.
the way it is marketed. It's still, this beautiful woman, and she has to be like that, and the guy has to be, with short hair, ripped off, with the shirt, a little bit open, on the chest. So it feels like Notting Hill, for example, feels more grounded to reality. But we're still go back to those cliches. Maybe the story changed. Maybe it is definitely interesting, and maybe it's not as cliche the story that it used to be before. But it still uses the same symbol, as you were saying, Arda.
But I don't think that that's romantic comedies, Matt. I think that that's Hollywood. That's pop culture. Like, look at all the movies.
No, I agree.
Like,
yeah, for sure.
But also, now I was also going to point out, like, even when we were talking about masculinity, femininity, toxic behaviors, patriarchal society, who is deciding these things? Who is making the influence? Like, not just men in general. I would say it's powerful men, rich men, who has control on things. Now, there are a lot of men following that, but the dynamics are like those things are created by some men who has power and influence. And I think that's, to me, is the issue. Like, as men, as women, we should react. I mean, yeah, we react to men who is acting like dumbasses, sure. But those people require reaction with our demands, with our critique to their work. And it's sometimes hard to see because it's built in, like with these small things that you need to be somewhat educated to see. And they play with our feelings. They play with our perceptions. But those dudes, those guys, those men up there, those to me is generally the problem, the source of it. Anyways, go ahead.
No, I agree with you. I think that this idea you were saying about powerful men making decisions, and there's also this idea that it is an industry, so money needs to be considered. And obviously money needs to be considered if you're talking about an industry, not if you're talking about art, but like a lot of Hollywood is an industry. So yeah, you shouldn't invest, like it doesn't make sense to anyone to invest millions of dollars in a film that no one will watch because there won't be the financial return to it. So it doesn't make sense. But the thing is, how much of that is real and how much is just a speech that is repeated that, for example, action movies with female leads don't make enough money. Action films or superhero films with non-white main characters don't make the same amount of money. How much of that is actually real and how much of that is just a speech that is repeated because there is a comfortable position that white people are in that, like, once that changes, it's privilege. We're talking about privilege. So how much of the decision-making people don't want to give up their privilege? So it's easy to just repeat the same thing. Like, we can't invest the same amount of money because it's not going to give the same amount of return. Mm-hmm. Is it? Because if you do invest the same amount of money, if you do invest the same amount of money in marketing, in just making it happen, will it not be the same amount of money?
I agree, but don't you think it's
I agree too. I mean, there's work on top, work on ground too, for sure.
But I have this question regarding that because definitely, the way most of those are marketed, and sometimes well, like they definitely put the money on some project and some not. But don't you think it's also goes to, and this is why, I think it's great to have you here, is also about like how we write things. For example, Furiosa, all right, which is the last Mad Max movie series that came out like last weekend.
I really liked it. Now
I haven't seen it, so no
say.
spoilers.
I haven't seen it. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not judging. I'm not saying that. But it's kind of a failure at the box office right now, what people are saying.
Really?
Because it's like the lower grossing, movies for this long weekend it was in the US. And it's not working that well at all. And it's a lead, female. But it's also taking, this movie franchise that was working pretty well, especially the previous one. And like, it feels like it's been marketing. I think it's like $195 million, as a budget. So I think the marketing was there. Like, I think I saw trailers last year already about that movie. But it feels like still it's getting short on that. But I don't want to go to the socio-economic, aspect to it, which is like, okay, people maybe they don't want to go to the movie or something like that. But it always feels like, as you were saying, like when it's a lead female actress, and it's action movie, then, it doesn't really work. But don't you think it's also not just the marketing aspect to it, but maybe also the way those female characters are written to? And as a writer, I'm asking that too.
I haven't seen it. I heard some people say that the script was not good. This is important to say that this movie is directed by a man, and because I haven't seen it, it's very hard for me to say like if the movie is good or not. But I do think that
there was remake, of Ghostbusters with female cast. There was like a lot of movies, that were remakes or, franchise kind of films, and they were with women as leads. So I think like, even though you didn't watch this one, but it feels like there's always this kind of connection into those.
Madame Web.
But that's the thing. Yeah. Madame Web. But that's the thing though. Like why are these movies being made? Is it just to fill the quota? Because that could be a reason why they're not a success. When Ghostbusters was written, when Ghostbusters, like they just like created Ghostbusters, it was like a good idea. They had no male, if I'm recalling correctly, I think they're all men in the team, right? That was like, ooh, I have this great idea that I wrote. And now if it's just like filling a quota, like let's redo it, but with women, like that's not necessarily going to be good. That's not the solution. And a lot of what's happening right now is just to do that. Let's make the same movie, but with a woman, or let's make the same movie, but with a black character. And it's just like, is that how we are going to fix the problem? Is that the best way to go? Is that how we're going to attract people to watch it? For example, I can see how male superheroes get more attention naturally than female superheroes. Why? Because we grew up with male heroes. Like there are tons of them. There's Spider-Man, Superman, Batman. Like there are thousands of them.
Something men.
Yeah, exactly. So like, yeah, if you do a movie, if you make a movie about a woman superhero, yeah, that might not naturally attract as many. First of all, it's going to be a new IP, which is already a big difference than like a movie about Spider-Man. There's people who probably know that the movie is going to suck. They're going to watch it anyways because they love Spider-Man. So
yeah, I agree.
Besides that, like you make a movie with a female superhero, it might not attract too many, the same amount of audience, but that's also like how we're going to change that is by creating that IP and making that IP normal and not like the exception. So it's creating the IP, but also creating the story for itself, not to fill a quota, not to fill a space that you need. We're launching 5 new movies. They all have men as like white men as the main characters. So let's just come up with the movie with the woman. And then it's like, but it didn't do as well, obviously. Like that was not like, how was that created? What was the intention in creating? Was it to make a good story? Was it to like create something? Or was it to just fill a quota? And if it's just to fill a quota, yeah, you're probably going to struggle. It's not going to be as fun, as good, as interesting as,
So what do you think then? How do you think we should write women in movies in general? Then, in terms of superhero, but even like romantic comedy, as we were talking about, to kind of change that idea of those stereotype basically that are based on those generation patriarchal, I don't know, systemic.
I think that the best way to do that is to, like, when we talk about diversifying the voices of creators, for example, writers, directors, producers, I think that that's the best way to portray anyone in society. Because if a woman is writing a character that is also a woman, she will have a lot of firsthand experience that she can insert in that character, and that a lot of other women will be able to connect to, and that's going to be more real. That being said, it's not that men cannot write women, but the moment that we have only men writing women or creating women, which was the reality for a very, very, very long time, that's when we base a whole art form into cliches. And that's why we're in this pickle where even if you're like open-minded, you sometimes accidentally fall into a cliche because that's what you're used to. And that's how this art form was maybe not created, but established. So we need time to change. Things won't change. Like, we won't be able to change in a lifetime. We won't be able to change just by wanting to change. It's a collective movement. And and I think that the best way is to to diversify the voices, because like you can be a very well-intentioned man that study a lot and that read a lot and that talk to a lot of women, and you can try your best to portray a woman. But there are things that you just won't know, the same way that I won't know everything there is to know about being a man. And it's honestly like the amount of things that we watch from the perspective of a man, it's like we are already like bombarded with content telling us what it is to be a man, but much more than you are like about being a woman. But
Agreed.
Even with all of that, I know that I won't understand 100% the experience of being a man. I will never understand the experience of being a Black person because I'm not. Okay. So
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the more people we will have in the entertainment industry with variety, instead of putting them on the screen, they should put it more the production and the writing and the directing part, as you mentioned.
Yeah,
I think
like
Julia
everywhere
has a good point there. Yeah, I mean, in front too. But I think I totally support you on that. That's men write about men. Men write about women. Women do movies about women too, but it should be more. And then even women can do movies about men too, because it's women's perspective about men. Like Barbie, for example, a women director, and it was an interesting take on men and patriarchy. And I really enjoyed it. Matt really enjoyed it. It was definitely a thought-provoking.
I need to stop you. I'm sorry. Like, I didn't enjoy it. I think it's one of the best movies for the past 10 years. I just want to clear that out.
He really liked it.
Yeah. You said, I didn't enjoy it. I thought you were going to say I didn't like it, but no, I didn't enjoy it. It's like the best movie ever.
First, like when I first watched it, I was iffy. Like, because Matt really liked it, right? And then he was like, dude, it was really good. Let's talk about it. But how I felt after I left that movie, I was like, should I talk about it? I felt like there were a lot of things that I shouldn't say anything. That was the weird part about that movie. Like, it was very interesting. I was like surprised that it was pointing out so many different things that I didn't realize. like nuanced things, as you mentioned. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know what to say about this, you know? So, but the more we talked about it with Matt, I'm like, wow, this is like really interesting. Like there are so many layers into this. And I don't know. I think it was one of the best movies from that portrayed men by a woman, I would say.
Are we talking about
I mean,
men in
there's a
Barbie?
lot of
No, it's a movie that portrays men by a woman director and writer.
Yeah, I think that like that's the thing. Like it's not like that we cannot, I think that artists are people that are naturally very sensitive. And by being very sensitive, I think that they can notice and they can talk about different aspects and different perspectives that most people might miss. And so that's why art is so important, because we're bringing those things that a lot of people miss, but we're bringing them, we're highlighting them and saying like, guys, let's look at this. Like, what about this? This is important. So yeah, I think that we can all write about everyone. But the thing is, once we have like only one side writing everything, that's when we create a problem. And I want to show you guys something, but at the same time, like, this is a podcast, so if I show you, like, no one else will see it. But this is like like a variety post that is talking about how much the people in charge of the big studios made. And like, if you look at it, it doesn't matter like the amounts.
Yeah, we only see, for people listening, we only see like white guys, basically.
Yeah, men.
It's just white old men.
Yeah, exactly.
They are all like the same, like they all look the same. It's insane. And these are the people in charge of all the studios. Yeah. So this is like Amazon CEO, Apple CEO, Comcast president, Fox Corporation president and chair, Warner Brothers, Paramount, Netflix, Disney.
Yeah, the big studios, yeah.
So these are the people making money. In these past 2 years, where the industry is really hurting and suffering and no one has a job and everyone is like struggling a lot, not to say a bad word, so everyone's struggling a lot. These people are making bank. They're making money. And they're all like old white men. So I think that's the problem. That's the problem.
Yeah. I mean, should we kind of wrap it up? This note?
Yeah, let's change for real.
Capitalism is the problem.
All right. Thank you guys for listening. We had our special guest, Julia. Tell us where we can find you.
My Instagram account is at Maju Cancella, just like my name, MajuCancella.
It was great to have you. I think it was great. Really fun.
It was. Thank you so much for inviting me. I think I want to participate in more episodes. So
I love it.
Whenever you guys.
Julia is like such an old friend too. Like if we sit down, get a coffee, we talk like 2 hours, 3 hours. So it's like
it's true. Arda and I had the most insane conversations I think I had in the United States, and it was always so random.
Always pleasure.
Yeah,
it's good to talk with you. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. I was your host, Matt, and I was with my good friend Arda. This is Yes or No Podcast. You can find us on social media at Yes or No Podcast everywhere. And we hope to see you again next time. Thank you. See ya.
All right. See you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.